Hello everyone, Mitchen Chicken here. Today I'm going to be showing you an in-depth look at my Rapid Strike deck list that I've been playing through most of the Paradox Rift format. I think Rapid Strike's a pretty good archetype right now that's super underrated and not very well covered even online. So I'm going to be doing probably more in-depth than you've seen before on deck lists. I want to talk a lot more about why certain cards are played and even why we place certain card counts in here, or at least my opinion on them. To give you a little bit more information on the deck, since I don't think there's a ton of it out there, and I think it's a lot better than most people think. So with that said, we'll get started. We're starting off with the main Pokemon of the deck, 3 Inteleon V, 3 Inteleon VMAX. You generally want at least 2 of them set up in every matchup. Double Gunner, the ability of Inteleon VMAX sort of runs the deck, so obviously we're going to need at least 3 of that. It's kind of our main attacker, but we've still got an alternate attacker, which you can see here, which is why we don't really need 4 but 3 is definitely pretty good. It's enough to find them easy, set up multiple, and roll from there. Then we've got 2 Urshifu, Rapid Strike. These guys are really good for the Miraidon matchup because you definitely don't want to be putting a 3-prize water Pokemon in play against that matchup. So this is the sort of one case you want 2 of them. It's actually okay in Giratina as well, 2 of them. I find Urshifu is a slightly better attacker in the Tina matchup than Inteleon is. But for the most part, otherwise, we're going to be setting up 1-1 and 2 just safe sort of number there. If we prize a V, discard a VMAX early until we find our Clara, we've still got our easy 1-1 line left over that we can set up from there. And Rapid Flow is an insanely strong attack in the right scenario. So really good Pokemon. Then we're moving into our support main engine. We've got 2 Remoraid, 2 Octillery. The first big sort of thing that sticks out is the Remoraids to me. I used to play 60 going into the Paradox Rift format. This one came out. 170 is definitely important. I would highly recommend playing at minimum 170. You could even play both. I'm not 100% sure if I care for the 2, but 1 as an option is really important for things like the mirror. If you're going second and they whiff Rapid Flow on your Remoraid, they could still be able to easily not go to 60 HP with things like Double Gunners, Yoga Loop. 70 makes that a lot harder. It's the same sort of reason Shenpao plays that 170 HP Frigibax. It's a little harder to retreat. Same sort of scenario. They both have 1 retreat cost, but this one could be free retreat with the Tower of Waters in play. So it's sort of the same principle, but at least 170 HP is really important. You could go both. Then we've got Metacham V. These are going to be our one-of Pokemon. Metacham V, really strong. You don't need more than 1, but Yoga Loop is an insanely strong attack. It lets you extend turns to make like crazy plays of things like using 2 Gunners, Yoga Loop, Double Gunner again, attack the active. You can take like 3 1-price Pokemon in a turn and basically board wipe your opponent of their actual relevant Pokemon before they've even gotten to play the game and just win from there. Taking an extra turn is very strong when you have such good spread ability in a deck like this. So Metacham, just great Pokemon. Then we've got Radiant Alakazam to sort of help with those plays. Lets you move damage counters around. Once again, we're putting a lot of damage counters on the board, but we might want to be stacking them up on 1 Pokemon to kill it immediately, as opposed to doing 2 and 2. We can accelerate the damage to one of them with Painful Spoons and set up some odd numbers, like 2 and 2 we move to 3 and 10, and then leading up to 70 HPs makes more sense. You're not wasting damage counters. Then I got Spiritomb in here. I think Spiritomb is actually a really important include. I've seen some people cut it and just take the loss to Mew. After playing this matchup a lot throughout the Paradox Rift format, I'm actually positive against Mews. I've beaten them in best of 3s as well. Spiritomb's really big. Even with the Fusion Energy build, they still have to find a couple Fusion Energy to get down. And if they don't set up super fast and Spiritomb kind of sticks them, you can just set up triple Inteleon VMAX, rotate them through, and it's actually a winnable matchup. It's not as bad as people think. So I would definitely keep the Spiritomb because it swings the Mew matchup a lot more than I initially expected even. Trust me, keep it in the deck. It's pretty good. And Mew's sort of getting more popular, but don't be afraid of that. The Tomb can help you out. Finally, last Pokemon in the deck, I've got Squawkabilly EX. A lot of people used to play Lumineon, which was okay at final year supporters. I find Squawkabilly to be a lot better because you're generally always going first with this deck, and it can occasionally have some wonky like hands that you can't really get out of. And if you're going first, you can't Lumineon for a supporter either, so you're kind of just like lost the game off bad setup, even if you Lumineon the next turn. Squawkabilly is something you can get in a pinch with any of your ball search in the deck, and then just dump the hand. You have a decent amount of recovery for most of the things in the deck anyways, and then you can actually play the game from there if you're going first. Furthermore, with aggressive draw power, our main supporter of the deck is triple Professor's Research. Like I said, a lot of stuff is usable or recoverable. And Research is just good aggressive draw, so we don't care too much about discarding things. If anything, we need to really be ripping through our deck because we want to find aggressive playmaking cards like Vessel for water energy to be able to use multiple gunners into Yoga Loop, things like that. So research is really important. Then we got 2 Iono, also really good draw supporter. Important to have some form of disruption in the deck. Iono is just a solid card. Save it for the late game against a lot of the matchups and you can cripple them. Then we've got 2 Karina. Karina is a big one that you don't really see in most decks, but it's really good specifically because of the Rapid Strike trait. Octillery is not technically like a draw engine. It's just an engine to get our pieces, like Rapid Strike pieces. So it helps us set up our Pokemon, find Rapid Strike energy, but it doesn't actually find, like energies, for example, the water energies, I should say. So if your hand's really low and you just need more cards, Octillery can still occasionally work as a draw engine by searching out Karina. So that's what it's really good for. Then we've got 2 Melanie. These are the sort of Urshifu playmaking cards. You're never really wanting to Melanie to Inteleon unless your hand is really dead and you just desperately need the cards. But it's a way of reusing our water energies and setting up Urshifu VMAX, who attacks for 3 energies, as you can see, in just a simple Melanie plus attach Rapid Strike energy, and we're good to go. Then I've got a couple 1-of supporters in Clara, Turo, and Arven. I think all of them as 1-ofs are really useful. They find their use, but you don't need more of them. Turo is really good for moving Alakazam. That's one of the issues with the deck if Alakazam gets stuck, because it's a non-Rapid Strike Pokemon with 2 retreat costs, so it's a bit hard to move. Turo can move Alakazam. It's good against like control type matchups, and you can use it to reset some of your Pokemon. If you've used like 2 Inteleon VMAX double gunners and you got 1 open on the bench, but you discarded your VMAX or something, you can Turo the VMAX, move it over there, use gunner again. You can use it as a healing factor if they've near one-shot one of your VMAXs, then you Turo, pick it up, that damage is gone. So Turo is really good in the right scenario. Arven also really good in the right scenario. Finding things like a Vessel plus Devo or Retrieval plus Devo, depending on where your water energies are at in the game, can allow for really big swing turns where you didn't have much going on, and all of a sudden you've got kind of all the core things you want. Damage on board, devolution. You can swing a turn really hard with Arven. Finally, Clara. Only 1 Clara. I will mention this is probably, a second Clara would probably be my 61st card in this deck. You can definitely make the argument for 2. It tends to be a rotation. Most popular, I think, of Rapid Strike tends to be a rotation of the 61st card being Arven, second Clara, or Escape Rope. And, obviously, spoiler, I have Escape Rope, so the second Clara. If there's any card you don't really jive within this list and you want to try second Clara, that would be a good inclusion. I would definitely say it's understandable because Clara is really good. Picking up our 1-of things like our Medicham or our Alakazam if they get knocked out can be really important to reuse, and it also acts as another retrieval to recursion our water energies. But if you had to do something like discard Clara early alongside a Pokemon, maybe you had like a bad hand, you had to just go squawk it away or research it away, Clara and our Urshi VMAX, then we prize our other VMAX, now Urshi's out of the game, right? So second Clara can be good. Moving on to our items, I've got 4 Ultra Ball and 4 Battle VIP Pass. There's not a ton to say there, just good Pokemon search. Especially with the Squawk ability, we have more aggressive draw. If we don't see a VIP on our turn 1, we can Squawk, find them. We're digging through so many more cards. If we're going second, we have things like Arven to search it out if we find that. So VIPs are really good for establishing the board, as they are in most decks, really. And then I'll just skip to it, 1-of Nest Ball as well, since we're talking about Pokemon search. It's just easy, basic search if we happen to whiff VIPs earlier in the game. And it's also something you can get off Arven to easily get a Pokemon. I've done that quite a bit where I don't have Medicham or Alakazam yet, and a couple turns in I play Arven. I just get the Nest Ball for the easy access to them, and because I need Rapid Strike search for an energy or something like that. So the 1-of Nest Ball is pretty good. Then we've got Energy Retrieval. We definitely need these because the actual amount of water energies you want to be playing is pretty low. I have 5 in here. It doesn't really change much. You could play 6 if you really wanted to. I don't think it's necessary. 5's pretty good. Retrieval just lets you reuse them because you have so much recursion. You can just, not only is it better than playing an extra water energy, because once you've used your water energies, these cards count as 2 water energies, right? We're getting 2 back from the discard and reusing them. And if we play too much water energy, then our hand's clogged with water energy. So retrievals are pretty good to just cycle double gunners without clogging your deck too much with extra water energies. Double Vessel, on the other hand, is there to find them in the first place, get them out of the deck. You use this, get 2 water energies. There's 2 double gunners for the turn, and you're rolling from there. Then I've got the 1-of Escape Rope. I think this card is really good because Rapid Strike's kind of the only deck in the format that doesn't really play any form of gusting. You could play like a 1-of Boss. 1-of Countercatcher is actually more common to see because you can kind of play from behind and spread a lot of damage, and then counter catcher and make plays that swing the game in one turn, take 4 or 5 prizes anyways. You're not actually behind, but prize wise you're behind. So that's a card you could include. I'm not sure how much I like it or need it. I've personally tried one of Boss in the past. Anytime I'm thinking in my games where like, oh, a Gust would be really good here, it tends to be because I'm like about to win on this turn anyways. I just wish I could Gust like a Rotom V on a Charizard side and Gale Thrust it with Urshifu for the knockout because I'm winning anyways, which Counter Catcher wouldn't be active, and Boss as a supporter I don't think is necessary in this deck. You have too much access to your opponent's bench to really justify playing Boss anyways. It tends to be a dead card a lot of the time, and it's not necessary. But Rope can act as a pseudo Boss, which can be good in some cases where it's like, I want to kill anything on the bench more than the active. It also lets us move the earlier mentioned Alakazam problem of getting stuck. Things like that can be pretty good. Then for tools, we've got 2 Forest Sealstone. Obviously, really good tool. Played in a lot of V decks. Just getting any card I want whenever is pretty good. Most of our Pokemon are Vs, and we don't have a V-Star, so we don't have an innate V-Star ability. So 2 Forests are just good. You don't really need more like Mew. We're not that desperate for the Forest Sealstone, but we're pretty good with 2. You just stick it on them, pop it, find our early VIP, our Vessel, whatever we want. Then we've got 2 Devolution. This card is absolutely broken. It's so good in Rapid Strike. In situations, probably like the best card in the deck. It's so strong because no longer are you like stuck once Gardevoir evolves up 2 EXs, or they've got a whole bunch of Charizard EXs in play. You can still play for like as if these Pokemon are 70, 80 HP Pokemon and spreading Gunners around and then board wipe them with Devolution. You can also set Charizard really far back, even if you don't have a lot of damage on board yet, but you just need to slow them down and they've overextended to like 3 candies already. You just Devolution. If they don't have a Charmeleon in play either, then or a Charizard that evolved from Charmeleon already, then they've got 1 candy left with a Candy Zard as their only option to attack that next turn, so they have to do that and commit to no longer having Pidgeot the rest of the game, or they have to take a turn off to evolve up through Charmeleon. 2 Devo in particular I want to mention is really important. I've seen lists with 1, and I think it's just kind of ridiculous. This card is so strong. If you discard it early, the option's just gone. You want to find it easier, because when you need it, you need it. It's not something that you can just have whenever. It doesn't do much turn 1 of the game, but on the turn that you want Devo, it literally wins games. Right, like I've got 70 damage on multiple Pokemon, and all I need is Devolution, and I just win the game because I board wipe them of all their attackers. And then Arven can also find it, so that's pretty good outs to it. I just think 2 is so important. Don't play 1. Don't play 1. When I see 1, it drives me crazy. Next, we've got 3 Tower of Waters. Good enough for stadium bumps like Path to the Peak, turning off our double gunners. We're not like overly concerned about Path. It's mainly double gunners, but you just want to get them out of the way. Denying your opponents whatever stadium they want is usually important in decks, even if you're not susceptible to things like Path. 3 is a pretty good number of bumps, and not a lot of decks other than ours is going to be taking advantage of Tower Water, so it's a pretty good stadium to play. It is very necessary to have in play in a deck like this, because it almost feels like the deck plays like it plays around Tower of Waters, and it's almost hard to explain this, but you sort of treat the deck like it's just got free retreat and I can just move around whatever I want. Or you treat it almost like Mew VMAX where they have free retreat already. So then when you don't have Tower, you're like, oh, wait, I can't just move my Inteleon into Medicham and Yoga Loop and then move my Inteleon back in the active just for free. I have to be discarding energies, and we definitely don't want to do that. So Tower of Waters lets you play the deck like Mew, where everything has free retreat for the most part, obviously, other than Alakazam. And you could just go into whatever you want, especially because you're taking 2 turns, right? You're retreating twice if you're going into Medicham and then retreating back. So Tower of Waters is really good. Then we've got energies. Got 4 Rapid Strike energy. These are the core energy of our deck. These allow us to attack. The main thing we're going to be attaching, almost the only thing we're going to be attaching, you get the occasional water energy on Urshifu to use Rapid Flow easier. But it's really just Rapid Strike energy, attach for turn, attack. That's all we really need, because Inteleon's 2 energy, Medicham's 2 energy, and Inteleon returns the energy to our hand, so we're not really at risk of wasting them. We have pretty good access to them, and we can go like attach to Inteleon, spiral it off, and then attach that same energy to Medicham. So these are really good. Then finally, the last 5 cards of the deck, 5 basic water energy, and it might seem sort of low because you want to be using 1, 2, who knows, 3 double gunners every turn if possible. But the big thing is that we have recursion, right? So we've got 2 retrievals. We've got a Clara that acts like a retrieval. We've got Melanie in terms of attaching them to Urshi. So if they're in the discard, we can go Melanie attached there. We reuse these same 5 water energy so many times, and we've got multiple vessels to get them out. So it's actually enough. It's pretty good. And with that said, that's all my 60 cards. Let me know what you think. Some alternate inclusions you could play in this deck. I'll just fire off really quickly. 70 HP Remoraid, change to that. You could play Luminion if you want to. Countercatcher. There's also builds like people lighten up some of the supporters you see here, like cut down a Research, cut down one other thing, and play 2 Iridas. That's kind of how the deck was played pre-Paradox Rift format. I think the transition to more aggressive draw of heavy Research is a lot better for the deck, because Irida still doesn't find you exactly what you want a lot of the times. Like, finding a water Pokemon is kind of just something Octillery can do anyways. It's usually going to be for Octillery, which you could just draw into, or Inteleon, which Octillery could search for. And the item is good. I think Arven's just a better Irida, though, where you want item tool. So I think that tends to be better. And then if you're not playing Arven, just play like aggressive draw power, like Research. And then Boss or Countercatcher. I probably wouldn't play Boss. I'd play Countercatch if you really want the Gust, but in my honest opinion, I don't think the deck needs it. Personally, overall, this is the perfect 60 in my eyes. The closest thing to a 61st card is a second Clara. If you want to change a card, that's the card I would change. Add that in for something. But otherwise, I think this is pretty good. If you want more in-depth information, because like I said, I don't see a lot of people covering Rapid Strike, let me know. I'll consider doing like a full-on matchup guide for the deck. This is just kind of an overview of what I think is the optimal play right now, but how to play it is another story. So let me know if you want to see more in the future. Other than that, like, subscribe, I'd appreciate it, and hopefully see you in the next one. Later.